Saturday, April 12, 2025. And Easter is coming up. And have you been out Easter shopping? Because nothing says the crucifixion and rebirth of Jesus Christ like chocolate bunnies, right? Have you been out there seeing how much the chocolate bunnies cost this year? Holy smokeronies, right? So it's interesting. Chocolate prices are surging, and the food professor talks about the impact on the Canadian economy and Easter and all the rest of it. It's interesting. And what is the impact on chocolate cereal? That's the real question, and we'll get to the bottom of it on Canada Poly. Okay. Donald Trump is bringing in digital ID. One of his people is talking about how Real ID, which has been in the works since 2005, but delayed, is going to be implemented and used for voter ID, and people are getting itchy about that. And yeah, I mean, I don't like that. That's not a great idea, right? I'm not a fan of digital ID. I don't think central bank digital currency is the solution to all of this, and hopefully Donald Trump doesn't either. Who knows if it's going to come to fruition, but this is the rumors online. CPC backs abortion unequivocally. Pierre Poilievre talks about that. Maxime Bernier responds. Selling off Teslas. We've got provincial governments punishing Elon Musk by selling their already purchased Tesla vehicles. Good job, guys. Mark Carney vows to censor the internet when selected. When he is selected, the winner of this election coming up, he is going to censor the internet, just like the Liberals were going to do before anyway. So, I mean, jeepers creepers. I think the whole thing is a fraud, a scam. We're being scammed, right? And the election's not even that good of a show. Honestly, it's not very good. Update of the Carney paused campaign. So Carney went and had a meeting yesterday, stopped campaigning, and there's a whole bunch of people talking about why he paused his campaign. And it wasn't the Donald Trump tariffs or the economic fallout from the Donald Trump tariffs. It was because Carney keeps saying stupid shit and looking terrible on the campaign trail because he's a bad campaigner and he's a bad candidate. And he's terrible. He's absolutely terrible. Everybody I've spoken to, I kind of start with, man, Mark Carney's awful. And everybody kind of laughs. And hey, they agree with me because, I mean, he's awful. He's awful. And China's shadow over Canada, the influence that China has over the Liberal Party in Canada is unbelievable and unacceptable. And well, I mean, we've got to expose it. It's being noticed by pundits across the pond. It's being noticed by everybody and their dog, and except for Canadians who are lining up to go to Mark Carney rallies, which is weird. Anyway, so lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we have to remind ourselves we've got two foreign things to inform us about our election going forward. Do you remember when Donald Trump was facing Hillary Clinton and Hillary Clinton was in the bag to win it? No problem. 9% win for Donald Trump, 91% for Hillary Clinton. So I think the polls are rigged, but I also think that the elections are rigged. So, and like, I don't know how Donald Trump was able to overcome those rigged elections, but he did twice, it seems. And for Mark Carney, for Kamala Harris, she had a 58% chance of winning. Trump had 39, and he won, right? So all of these polls are rigged, absolutely. And we've got polls tightening now, bringing the Liberals from a majority to a minority territory, which again, I don't believe it. I really don't believe it, but who knows? And we'll see on April 28th. We've still got debates to go through. Do you think Mark Carney's going to debate? I don't think. I have my doubts that Mark Carney is going to debate. Here is Liz Truss, and she is talking about actually the West is at risk and it will fall faster than you think, says Liz Truss, under the weight of Islamicism, net zero, and all of the rest of the nonsense policies that we're going to go through. Our liberals, our Chinese aligned liberals, even the CPC, the NDP, we're going to go through the policies that Liz is talking about here. This is a microcosm of what's going on in Canada. And yeah, all of these issues are going to overwhelm the West's ability to respond because the West has been hollowed out, right? We're a post-national state with no core identity of our own, according to our last prime minister. And if you don't have a core identity, if you can't say, no, hold on, we don't do that here. If somebody says, what do you mean we, right? Like, what do you mean here? So if you can't say that, if you can't assert that, if you can't say our culture prevents these kind of behaviors, and we can't say that now, right? Because that's racist or something, then you lose the whole thing. And we're on track for that. We're on track for codifying that into law. We're on track for, even if you point that out on the internet, you're going to be taken off to the gulag, right? And so more fool us if we let it happen. Here's Liz Truss.
And what I am saying is unless we get a grip and change the way our countries work, the West will be finished in 10 years. And what do I mean by that? I mean, we have been threatened by left-wing ideology, whether it's excessive government spending, whether it's net zero ideology, whether it's things like DEI and ESG, whether it's Islamism. All of these things have conspired to hollow out our countries, to stagnate our growth, but also to present real threats to the way of life in the West. And I am a Trump supporter. I think that Trump getting elected last year was the first domino to be falling in the right direction in terms of saving the West, because otherwise I think that we will see China and radical Islam, two terrible partners, win against the West. That is the threat we face. And what
very, very, very scary. And I think that people underestimate just how close that threat really, really is. Here's Brian Lilly, and now we're talking about the elections. And the governance stuff I'm putting into the elections tab under the Liberals, because they've been in charge for the last 10 years and they're the ones who have pushed these policies. They want these policies. So it's kind of a mishmash of current governance and election stuff, but it all meshes into the same liberal paste. Brian Lilly says, this is utter insanity. It's getting harder to say that the Liberal Party of Canada isn't a branch plant of the Chinese Communist Party. Yeah. Yep. Brian Lilly's as mainstream as a Sun reporter gets, right? He's got all sorts of people who show up to his events and things like that. So he's pretty popular, and saying things like, hey, the Liberal Party is a branch plant of the Chinese Communist Party is a pretty big deal. This is a National Post story talking about Liberal candidate who replaced Paul Chiang attended a Chinese military parade in 2015. And it gets worse. Here's Dean. He says, how the F did this get past the Toronto Police, the RCMP, and CSIS? How far up are the Chinese government inside all three? At the top, the tippy top, I would say. Peter Yuan says, he's the new Paul Chiang. He's the guy who replaced Paul Chiang, and he is pictured with the group responsible for Chinese police stations in Markham and individuals whose buddy got arrested by the New York FBI. And so weird, right? Like that's the new Liberal candidate? Really? That's the guy? Yeah, really weird. Absolutely incredible. Sam Cooper says newly uncovered Chinese media records show Paul Yen, now Liberal candidate under Mark Carney, was reportedly invited by a United Front linked office to attend Xi Jinping's 2015 military parade in Beijing. The revelation advances prior reporting by the Bureau and the Globe and Mail intensifies scrutiny on Carney's judgment and the Liberal Party's ties to Beijing-linked influence networks. And Sam Cooper's responding to himself about Peter Yuan reportedly attended the 2015 Beijing military parade hosted by Xi Jinping. Right, so that's all of that is very concerning and very interesting. And just how much influence does China have over the RCMP, CSIS, and the Liberal Party, and by extension, the government of Canada? Right? How much? I think quite a lot. Larry Brock is responding to this. This is when Carney was asked about his Chinese ties and about this case specifically, because he focused on the meeting between the JCCC, but the question was actually, are you comfortable with Peter Yuan, who went to the 2015 Beijing military parade and has this picture here, being one of your candidates? So that picture, or that question, got derailed because Mark Carney got angry and focused on the one part and no follow-up. Thank you very much, right? And so Larry Brock, so Toronto Sun is reporting, Carney snaps at reporter over questions about China. As questions persist about Mark Carney's ties to China, Liberal leader gets snarky and attacks the media. Larry Brock says Carney lied. He met with a pro-Beijing group that parrots Communist Party propaganda and pushes closer to Canada-China ties. Days later, Beijing was caught interfering in our election to help Carney. Carney praises the regime. Beijing wants him to win. Carney will never put Canada first. Yeah, I think that's probably true. Here's Jim Ferguson. He's responding to, and he's a British pundit, and he's responding to the back and forth where Mark Carney gets asked. Well, we'll play it again just to remind you. This is barely contained fury. Okay, here we go.
Is why did you meet with this pro-Beijing group, Jiangsu Commerce Council of Canada? And is the party okay with the fact that Liberal candidate Peter Yan has been so close with the Chinese consulate and China-friendly groups, given the public inquiry into foreign interference, says that this is a tactic China uses to exert influence?
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but you can't believe everything you read in the Globe and Mail. So in your question, and I guess in the article in question, you said I had a meeting with whatever your term was, Beijing group. I've never heard of this group, okay? Never heard of this group. Certainly didn't have a set-up meeting with this group. Full stop. So check your sources before you write things like that.
So there you go. I've never heard of this group. I don't know which group you're talking about. This picture here should jog your memory, sir, right? And Jim Ferguson says, the mask slipped. You could see it. You could feel it when Mark Carney, WEF puppet and unelected prime minister, was asked about his ties to China. The smile vanished. The anger appeared. The mask came off. Why so sensitive, Mark? $205 million owed to China through Brookfield. Business links buried in Cayman Island funds. Photo ops with pro-Beijing groups. Silence on CCP infiltration in Canada. And now when asked a simple question about transparency about China, he lost it. What this means, the globalists hate being exposed. Carney doesn't serve Canadians. He serves the global machine. The anger you saw, that wasn't confidence, that was fear. Fear of Canadians waking up, fear of losing control, fear of the truth breaking through. This is no longer politics. This is a fight for Canada's soul, maybe. Carney's China links aren't just a story. They're the story. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Here's Jim again. He says, China's shadow over Canada exposed. This might be the biggest story in Canadian politics, and the media won't touch it. A bombshell investigation by the Bureau just dropped, and what it reveals is staggering. Direct links between Chinese Communist Party intelligence networks, the British Columbia government, Dave Eby, right? Trudeau's Liberal Party, and even a Trudeau-appointed senator, Wu. This isn't speculation. This is documented influence operations traced straight to the highest levels of power in Canada. What this means, Beijing's tentacles are wrapped around Canadian politics. British Columbia isn't just infiltrated, it's compromised. The Trudeau regime is sitting right in the middle of it. China isn't just buying farmland. China isn't just funding universities. China isn't just tied to fentanyl trafficking. China is inside the Canadian government, mapping influence, buying access, shaping policy. The intelligence community knows it. Diaspora researchers have proven it, and Trudeau's Liberals, silence. No investigations, no arrests, no accountability. Why? And that's Trudeau's Liberals or Carney's Liberals. Okay, it's the same thing. Jagmeet Singh's quiet too, because they know if the truth ever fully comes out, it could collapse the Liberal Party forever. I don't know. Like, I think that maybe they're worried about going to jail. I don't know that they're worried about the party rather than spending, a couple of years in a medium security prison in Brampton. Anyway. Canada deserves the truth. The world deserves the truth. This isn't foreign policy. I say that because we're terrible at holding our politicians to account. Even if they do things terribly, terribly illegal, we don't really hold them accountable. And that's like everybody across the board. Absolutely everybody. And United States, Canada, so on and so forth. Sarkozy went to jail for a few years, but he was in, I think it was house arrest for most of it. I think he was behind bars for 1 year. But anyway, we don't do it well in the West. We just don't. Here is some campaign stuff, news from Carney's paused campaign, and he's vowing to push for internet censorship. And Western Standard's reporting this, Carney vows to push for internet censorship. Prime Minister Carney says a re-elected Liberal government will move forward with new regulations targeting harmful online content, making a third attempt to legislate internet speech in Canada. Blacklock's reporter says Carney made the comments during a campaign rally in Hamilton after being interrupted by hecklers. Responding to accusations from the crowd, including questions about ties to the late financier Jeffrey Epstein, Carney paused briefly before refocusing his remarks. There are many serious issues that we're dealing with, he said. One of them is the sea of misogyny, anti-Semitism, hatred, and conspiracy theories, this sort of pollution online that washes over our virtual borders from the United States. While Carney said he could tolerate conspiracy theories directed at him, personally, he emphasized the broader danger to Canadian society. The more serious thing is when it affects how people behave, when Canadians are threatened going to their community centers or their places of worship or their school, or God forbid, when it affects our children, he said. He sent his child to Tavistock to be transed. Weird, right? My government, he says, if we are elected, will be taking action. Carney did not offer specific details on what new legislation might look like. Hate speech is already illegal in Canada under attachment or amendments to the Criminal Code introduced in 1970. Yep, so they'll just say any speech we don't like is illegal. Paul says, in the United Kingdom, many people are now being arrested for posting on social media. If the Carney Liberals win, expect the same or worse here in Canada. A vote for the Liberals is a vote for Orwellian censorship. And it's 30 people per day, I think, is the stat for people being arrested in England for speech violations online. Crazy town. And it's non-lawful hate incident or something like that. Non-illegal. I think it's lawful. Anyway, it's ridiculous. Up and down, it's ridiculous. So what about that pausing of the campaign? People have had a little time to think about it and write articles about it. And Gunther says, from the Toronto Sun, Carney's paused Liberal campaign to avoid tough questions. Yeah, I think that's probably true. Here is Mark Carney, and he says nothing. He says absolutely nothing in this at all. Demetrius says, suspend campaigning for a third time, have a 3-hour meeting, give a statement that says nothing, take no questions from the media, off to dinner, call it a day, ask for the top job and the keys to the country without a job interview with Canadians, campaign slogan, just trust me, which is, yeah, terrible. But here's Mark Carney. He doesn't say anything. He says, we had a meeting. We talked about all the serious impacts of these tariffs. And what was the last bit that he says? Oh, I can't remember. But, he says, Trump and I are going to meet in May, which is exactly what we knew before. He called Trump. Trump said, I'm not going to deal with any of this until after the election. And he said, okay. And now we're having an election. And he says, yeah, we'll meet after the election. So nothing's changed. We had a meeting to talk about how nothing's changed. Bullshit. So he is misleading people and pausing his campaign because he's bad at campaigning. He's bad, and he doesn't want to answer the questions that people have about his China ties, about his conflict of interest, about his money and blind trusts and all the rest of it. Here's Mark Carney dodging all the important questions to say nothing. Here we go.
Mark Carney is speaking in Ottawa, acting in his capacity as Prime Minister amid the trade war with Donald Trump. Let's listen into what he's saying today.
He had a good, long discussion on several aspects. The first is the general situation. In the last week, there have been a lot of developments in terms of U.S. tariff policy, reactions from others, including China, really marked tightening in financial conditions, the slowing the initial signs of slowing in the global economy, impacts that we're starting to see unfortunately, in the Canadian economy, particularly in the Canadian labor market. We reviewed our response to those tariffs, our core strategy of to fight, to protect, and to build. We left instructions for officials to ensure that the next government, whichever government Canadians choose, will be in the best possible position for negotiations with the United States, which, as the President and I have agreed, will begin from the start of May. En français.
So there you go. Nothing. He says absolutely nothing about anything. He just says, hey, this is where we're at, which is what we knew yesterday, pretty much. Brian Lilly says Carney has emerged from his cabinet meeting. He gave a brief statement, took no questions, and bolted. His decision to suspend his campaign is a distraction. He doesn't handle the questions well. He's not good at campaigning, but he benefits from playing PM. Yep. I think that's accurate. Vivian says, Mark Carney, I know you're taking a pause and saying it's to work out some brilliant tariff strategy. Me, I think it's to work out your proclivity, to say really stupid stuff. Still waiting for a response to the tweet below, the one you said you didn't know about. So there you go. She's talking about Gaza and Israel, and that whole thing is a trap. That is a sideshow. I still choose Canada. I still think that we shouldn't be funding foreign wars. I still think that the safety and prosperity of Canada should be first, period. And we shouldn't be funding Ukraine, and we shouldn't be funding Israel, and we shouldn't be funding Palestine, and we shouldn't be funding any of it. If we have billions to send to foreign countries, then our taxes are too damn high. That's the fundamental core of it, okay? Back to this. Gov.exe says, Yves Blanchette basically calls Mark Carney a liar and a coward for stepping away from the campaign. I like how he works his birthday into it. Here we go. Sorry, the question's quiet.
Sorry to say, but I don't believe him. I believe he's stepping away from the campaign because he wants to step away from the campaign. But, at some point, April 16 being It's my birthday gift, being April 16 being the latest that could come. I hope you will have to be not so far from me, answer questions, and make things clear for Quebecers, because he seems to avoid that as much as he can. But I'm a quite hard person to avoid on the long run.
I don't understand half of the statement. The 16th is the latest because that's his birthday present? I'm not sure. Anyway, regardless of all that, he says Mark Carney doesn't answer questions, and we'd really like him to answer questions. And there's lots of questions we'd like Mark Carney to answer. And I think he's stopping his campaign just to stop the campaign. And I think that, yeah, that's probably it. Here's Bob, and he's talking about conflict of interests and blind trusts and all of the other questions about Carney. None of the press around Carney seems to be good. Like, usually if there's an election going on, it's like, oh, here's a plank, here's a platform plank, here's a platform plank, here's, this and that. Right now, everybody and their dog are going after Mark Carney. And rightfully so. Mark Carney is a disaster. He is a disaster. He shouldn't be anywhere near leadership. And everybody knows, everybody can see it. But he's going to win, obviously, because somebody who everybody can clearly see should be nowhere near leadership is surging in the polls and on track to win a majority, right? Bullshit. But we're forced to believe that our elections are organic, and it's the boomers who are driving this. Anyway, here's the press talking about how terrible Mark Carney is.
I think the big fail for Mark Carney is his refusal to make sure that we know what he has got declared as a conflict of interest. We don't know how much money he's worth. We don't know what's in the blind trust. We don't know what property or anything. We know nothing about the financial disclosures that we do know for every other political leader because they're in Parliament. And before this election is over, we should see that. But clearly they're dragging their feet on that. And I think that is a failure of leadership.
Okay. John Depp?
Yeah, failure of leadership, failure of absolutely everything, failure of the whole system's corrupt. Here is Juno News, and they're reporting the Liberal Party has dropped former Burns Lake Mayor Chris Beach as its candidate for Caribou Prince George, allegedly due to his past criticism of former Prime Minister Trudeau and BC Premier Dave Eby. These guys are the two, connections to the East. We'll say so. You got to get rid of this guy. But Carney keeps. Who did Carney keep? Paul Yang, right? That's wild. Isn't that pretty crazy? Like, I think that people should have questions about that kind of stuff, right? Oh, he criticized Justin Trudeau? Get him out of here. Get him out of here. You can't have people like that. That's disloyal. National Post is reporting Carney's rosy energy promises meet the Liberals' dismal record. The tone is positive, but the Liberal government has long made promises to get energy infrastructure built and failed. So, yeah, it's one of those things where Mark Carney's trying to say, we're going to build pipelines to diversify our customer base and pivot away from having the United States buying all of our stuff. And it's not true, because he's not going to do anything different than the last Liberals did. They're not going to get any pipelines built. So it's not going to do anything. So we're just going to be poor and not have anything. CTV News is reporting Linamar's new and unused Welland, Ontario facility already up for sale. Less than 2 years after Linamar said it was opening a new state-of-the-art giga casting factory in Welland, Ontario, the property has been put up for sale. The city announced the plan to turn 59 Central Bank Street into a Linamar plant in May 23, saying it would create 200 new jobs in the community. According to a press release at the time, the factory was expected to focus on electric vehicles and specifically be a highly integrated casting, machining, and coating operation with the first of its kind giga-tonnage high-pressure die casting capabilities by an auto supplier in North America or Europe. Giga casting is a manufacturing process that uses one sheet of metal to form one larger automotive section instead of assembling many smaller pieces. Linamar will naturally take a market leadership position on this technology, Linda Hassenfratz said in the release. The Welland factory was expected to open in February 2025. Instead, the site has hit the real estate market. So the electric cars aren't selling. People don't need these things, these chassis or whatever the heck they're being built in here. And the factory itself is, well, you want to buy a Linamar factory? Right there, it's up for sale for anybody who's got the money. Wild. All of the money that the Liberals, all of our tax dollars that the Liberals use to back these industries, wasted, gone up in smoke. And it's not like we're going to get them back soon, right? It's not like we can call up the credit card company and say, reverse those charges. We didn't mean to spend those billions. It was a drunken night of listening to liberals, and we didn't mean to, okay? We regret it a lot. We woke up with a hangover. Can we get any of that money back? No. Oh, darn it. It'll be delivered tomorrow, right? Whatever nonsense we purchased. So yeah, we're stuck. And it seems like, again, if you look at the polls, we're on track to keep being stuck. Lori is responding to Crisco, and Crisco says, how many billions of Canadian taxpayers' money have the Liberals wasted on their green schemes? The market is showing that businesses and consumers don't want electric vehicles. And Lori responds, he says, according to the parliamentary budget officer, the federal and provincial governments have invested more taxpayer money and gone on 13 electric vehicle projects, 52.5 billion, than the car manufacturers themselves, 46.1 billion. Wah, wah. Like, we're left holding the bag? We're left holding the bag? Darn it. We are. In the form of higher taxes, in the form of not getting anything for those taxes. We just have to pay it. Chanel says, why would anyone vote for the guy who has been advising Trudeau for the last 5 years, is in bed with China and the WEF, wants to restrict your freedom for the planet while he flies around on his private jet? He avoided paying taxes in Canada by using a Bermuda tax haven for his company. I really don't get it. Please open your eyes before the Liberals destroy what's left of our once great nation. I think our elections are rigged, and she's underlining why I think our elections are rigged. Ignatieff did not catch fire, right? He was supposed to be some smart financial guy from the States to come in and run Canada, and everybody and their dog said, no, thanks. No, I don't think so, right? Like, you don't pass the sniff test here, buddy. And nobody got on board for him. And so in 10 years, everybody's on board, or 15 years, everybody's on board, 20 years, everybody's on board for Ignatieff was what, 2006? Anyway, regardless. Everybody's now on board for foreign central bankers, right? Like, let's get those robber barons into office as fast as possible. I just don't believe it. It doesn't make any rational sense, right? And so when people say, this is a minority of people, I just don't believe it. Jason Kenney says it's a minority of people. We'll get to Jason Kenney in a minute. Juno News is reporting, in a continuation of policies set by his predecessor, the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Liberal leader Mark Carney has vowed to maintain government-funded access to puberty blockers and transgender surgeries. Told you, right? So he transed his daughter, so he's willing to let you trans yours if you want to, which not good. Not good because it's false. It's a false thing that harms people. Ryan says, is the blaring music meant to keep the people awake? What an odd and very annoying song choice. This is at Mark Carney's rally in Toronto, I think, and it is a very annoying song choice. Listen, it's terrible. It's terrible. If I went to a rally and listened to this, I wouldn't think, oh yeah, we're going to win. Talk about annoying. Holy smoke. Here is a guy who is talking to people in line going to the Mark Carney event, and he tells them what to expect from a re-elected Liberal government. This is from Carmaya.
10 years of Liberals, 10 years of Liberals, food banks can't keep up, there's tent cities everywhere, record drug addiction, you should know it in Hamilton, you got a huge tent city over there, people are dying on the streets, that's 10 years of Liberals, you have the highest cost of living in the G7, 10 years of Liberals, record theft by the ministers, scandal after scandal. Taxes on taxes. Freedom.
There you go. I think I got her name wrong. Karima? Karima. That's it. Karima, right? It's not Carmaya. It's Karima, right? Hopefully. Okay. I get names wrong. I'm not meaning to be insulting. I just get names wrong. I'm sorry. Here's the CPC, and Poilievre is comparing Carney to Trudeau, and he says the same Liberal plan that doubled housing costs, now Carney is doubling down on the same Liberal promises. You can't afford a fourth Liberal term. Vote for change, vote Conservative. Carney is also running on a change ticket. He's saying, oh, vote for change, vote for us. We're going to change everything except the transgender stuff and the internet censorship stuff and the China stuff. And really all the stuff is going to stay the same. But we like to call it change. Anyway, do you think much will change under Poilievre? I don't know. I'm skeptical. But here is Poilievre, and he's bringing up the ghost of Trudeau, which is verboten, but Trudeau warning, next 30 seconds or so, 45 seconds. There you go.
We're getting government back in the business of building affordable homes.
Back into the business of housing in this country. Back into the housing business, back into the business of investing in housing.
To double the pace of housing construction.
Our government wants to see housing construction double. Double. The new housing starts in this country over the next 10 years. We're doubling housing stock, housing creation in this housing over the next 10 years.
That's it. That's enough. I can't deal with it anymore. Anybody who works in the construction industry and hears the word, yeah, we're going to double that, knows how false that statement is. Absolutely, without a doubt, knows it as much as you know that I am holding a orange or red cup, whatever cup this is. I'm holding a cup. I'm holding a cup, promise. It is just, it's not possible. It's not possible. You've got labor bottlenecks, you've got material bottlenecks, you've got high housing costs, or you've got high costs for the product, and then you've got all sorts of uncertainties with interest rates, borrowing, all sorts of problems with that. We're going to build lots of houses. I don't know, man. I don't think so. Double it? How? What's your plan? We're just going to import expert housing builders from China? Okay. They work with bamboo scaffolds. It's amazing. Okay. Juno News is reporting Polyev pledges to cap immigration. Okay. So he says we're going to cap it at the amount of houses we can build. Darn.
You can't add people 4 times faster than you add homes for very long, or pretty quick, you're going to run out of places for people to live. Same with jobs and healthcare. So we will go back to having the best immigration system in the world. We will reject the Century Initiative entirely, and we will cap immigration so that our population never outgrows homes, healthcare, and jobs.
I mean, having a policy like that is good, but if you increase the amount of homes you make in order to increase the number of people you bring in, I don't know that that's the spirit of what Canadians want. I think Canadians want a pause on bringing people in because it seems like there have been far too many people brought in, and it's doubled our rent, doubled our housing prices, and all sorts of other things. And just building homes takes a lot longer to solve the problem than cutting immigration does. So the inability for these people to honestly talk about solving the problem in the fastest way possible, in the most efficient way possible, is problematic. And if they need to do it this way in order to not crash our economy, then they should say that plainly. They should say our economy is snookered, and unless we do this, our economy crashes completely. Like, we're completely effed, and we need to do this in order to maintain these inflows and these purchases, new cars for new people who are arriving, furnishing a house, and so on and so forth. Without these regular purchases from these many people, then our economy is going to crash. Okay, then I can understand it, right? But now we need a plan to address that problem. Now that we've identified that problem, we need a plan to address it. And that's why they don't talk about it. They just seem like they're incompetent and they can't see the problem. They're like, oh, we know how to solve it. We're going to build more houses. We're going to double housing. Bullshit, you're going to double housing. You can't. It's not possible. Pierre Polyev says, after the lost Liberal decade, these are the headlines we see in Canada today. Chronic homelessness is up to 38%, and food bank use and housing costs have doubled. We can't afford a fourth liberal term. Vote for change, vote Conservative. And this is a Toronto Star article from April 11th, which is yesterday. And they say Toronto's tent encampments are up 20%, expanding into areas they've never been found in before. So not good news, not good news. When I was, in 2015, there were no tent encampments in Canada. And if there were, they didn't last for more than a couple of days until people realized what they were, and then they were removed, right? Like, this was not something that was long standing, having lots of people live in tent encampments. This is a massive failure on the government policies and inaction and response, et cetera, et cetera. It's a massive failure. House of Commons staffer is sharing this Polyev clip, and he says, I can guarantee there will be no laws restricting abortion. And the Resistance Coffee Co. says, terrible take. If conservatism doesn't mean defending the unborn, it's officially a meaningless term. Yeah, so it seems weak. The whole idea of abortion being women's health care is a fallacy. In 1988, after the Supreme Court struck down abortion as being against a woman's rights to self-actualize, they said government needs to come up with another bit of legislation to protect unborn babies, but it can't be this or whatever. And the government never picked it up again. They said, oh, well, the Supreme Court struck it down. That's that. That's not the whole story. It's not. And it's interesting that conservatives have, because when the Reform Party, there were multiple conservative parties that formed into the Conservative Party of Canada. There was the Canadian Alliance. There were a whole bunch of them. And a lot of them wanted to open up the abortion debate and fix it. And the Conservative Party of Canada under Stephen Harper said no. And that's the way it's been since. And Poilievre is continuing. So here we go.
I can guarantee you there will be no laws restricting abortion passed when I'm Prime Minister. For 20 years, the policy of the Conservative Party has been that there will be no restrictions brought in on a woman's right to choose. It's been in our policy since it was adopted by our party members in the year 2004. So this is a 21-year policy adopted by our members and upheld at all.
And we will not talk about it again. It was adopted in 2004, and that was enough, and we're never going to talk about it again. So there you go. Yay. What do you think about that? Is that a conservative position you agree with? Matt says, wow, the scenes tonight in Windsor at the Pierre Poilievre rally for workers. Change is on the way. Vote Conservative. Right. There you go. Keep things the way they've been. Yay. The way they've been has been so great. Maxime Bernier weighs in on the abortion debate. He says, Pierre and his fake conservatives want to keep the most liberal abortion policy in the world, which has no restrictions whatsoever. The PPC is not afraid to reopen the abortion debate and to join the civilized world. Read our policy on abortion. So there you go. You can check that out if you're interested. It's just interesting that nobody wants to get into that conversation. It's seen as a political poison pill, and you will alienate your voters and all sorts of terrible things if you talk about it. And I think that it should be talked about. It's an insane policy, and we're supposed to be a civilized nation. Come on, give me a break. Bradshaw says Jagmeet Singh wants us to feel sorry for him. I'll pass. And CTV News is reporting Jagmeet Singh makes a plea for Canadians to ensure NDP has influence in the next parliament. Nah, I'm good. I hope that the NDP shrinks to less than a seat. That would be good. If they didn't have a seat, that would be fun. If they had one seat, that'd be interesting, right? Probably wouldn't be Jagmeet's seat. So we'll see. I'll be interested to see if the NDP retain a leader who takes them from 25 seats down to, or who took them from 20% down to 8%. So terrible. I've seen 13%, but again, all the polls mean absolutely nothing. Last, we'll talk about chocolate because we got to talk about the chocolate cereal. Chocolate cereal prices have not gone up, but the chocolate prices overall have gone up. And Food Professor says chocolate prices have surged by over 300% since 2023. Easter will be more expensive this year for chocolate lovers. I can't help but think that the powers that be, the globalists that are in charge of certain financial markets and things, they shock markets. They take things, they're realize what people like, right? People like cigarettes, people like this, people like that. They take those things and they tax the crap out of them. Oh, we've got to tax it for your health, comrade. Or they do stuff like this. They'll take this and they'll be like, it seems like they buy a lot of chocolate at Christmas and Easter. Looks like that'd be a good thing to spike the price up. And people tell me the price of chocolate because I like chocolate cereal. And I have paid attention to the price of chocolate cereal in relation to the cocoa price. The price of chocolate cereal stays rock solid. It's a lost leader like bananas. They put the cereal on sale for 3 for $10 in order to get me to go to their grocery store to buy other things that are more expensive. And I listen to them. I fall for the trap. Chocolate cereal has got me every time. And we'll never get out of this mess if they keep giving me chocolate cereal. So anyway, so it benefits them to give me chocolate cereal. Regardless, they're making chocolate more expensive through shocks and through climate taxes and all the rest of it. And we're just supposed to take it, basically. And I mean, I don't have any control of the chocolate market. I have no control over any of this. But I feel like our policies, just like they negatively impact our citizens, they negatively impact a lot of these markets. And it's done to control us. It's done to browbeat us. If they can't hurt us directly, they'll hurt us with the price of Easter eggs, right? So is that too paranoid? I don't know. Ryan says, why would Carney, the central banker, continue with this waste of taxpayer money? Carney vows to continue the firearm buyback program that's cost $67 million since 2020 and hasn't collected a single gun. So why would he do that? I don't know. Anyway, we've got to let the stream go. We've got lots to talk about with regards to tariffs, and I've got a grab bag of USA governance, and our grab bag of governance is coming up next. But thanks for watching. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful